I believe as we learn to love and honor ourselves and really master our inner world, like you said, that's what we can give out to the external world. We are all wired to have everything we need to know, all of the intuition and wisdom and knowing that we need to know from within.
Hello and welcome to the Daily Helping with Dr. Richard Schuster. Food for the brain, knowledge from the experts, tools to win at life. I'm your host, Dr. Richard. Whoever you are, wherever you're from, and whatever you do, this is the show that is going to help you become the best version of yourself. Each episode, you will hear from some of the most amazing, talented, and successful people on the planet who followed their passions and strive to help others. Join our movement to get 1 million people each day to commit acts of kindness for others. Together, we're going to make the world a better place. Are you ready? Because it's time for your Daily Helping. Thanks for listening to the latest episode of the Daily Helping with Dr. Richard Schuster. Food for the brain, knowledge from the experts, tools to win at life. I'm your host, Dr. Richard, and I am really excited about today's guest, and you will love her energy. Author and life designer Julie Reisler is the founder and CEO of Empowered Living, a life design and personal development company. While Julie has a master's degree in coaching and more than 12 certifications in health and well-being, her master's could have been in people-pleasing and, in her own words, crappy self-esteem. Author of Get a PhD in You, a course in miraculous self-discovery, Julie authentically shares the extensive personal growth wisdom that came from her own struggles with body image, relationships, and feeling not enough. Julie is also in the short film Hungry for More, soon to be an online course where she shares openly about her journey with emotional overeating to finding out what really makes you full. As a speaker, coach, author, and faculty member at Georgetown University's coaching program, Julie is enamored with helping you to master your inner world so you can master your outer world. She is a mama of 2, stepmama of 1, happily remarried, and in love with her very imperfect life. Julie, welcome to the show.
Wow, thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
Now, it is absolutely a pleasure to have you on, and I am so excited to have you talk about your story. So let's start in the beginning because there's so much we can go over. Talk to us about, you said that your master's could have been in crappy self-esteem, people-pleasing. Talk about like how you got there and then what changed moving it forward.
Yeah, it's quite a journey. This is always my challenge, is to make sure I'm succinct, and it could be a year-long story. So I'm gonna keep it kind of to the point. But I grew up I was an active kid, and also, I joked that I was in a leotard or a bathing suit 4 out of 5 days a week, involved in dancing. I loved to dance and swimming, and I loved it until I was told that I was too big, too large to be a dancer, and that was really upsetting. Obviously, I was about 17, and my teacher said, "You have a great smile. You really conscientious, but you are not built like a dancer, and just wanted to let you know I don't think you should continue." And that really, I would say, just kind of feeling like taking those words and making that a story for a long time, feeling that not good enough. I wasn't built like the other, girls that I was in class with. I danced ballet for a long time, and I was always taller and always built a little bit bigger. And I just made that mean that I shouldn't be doing it. And it wasn't until I was in a personal development course, very intensive course, we were looking at past stories, and it just hit me like a ton of bricks because I had stopped dancing for years. I mean, a good 20 years. And it was one of my favorite ways to just be self-expressed. And I looked at, my gosh, I love dancing. I don't dance at weddings. I don't dance anywhere. What is going on? And then I realized, I remembered this story. It was crazy powerful. I realized that I let someone's words literally, take away one of my most, I created that, but I allowed that to change who I was. And I saw where that then seeped into all areas of my life. So, not feeling good enough and feeling like, whoever you wanted me to be, I could learn to be that so that I didn't have to deal with not being liked or to feel that I wasn't upsetting people. And it was a very disempowering place to live. And it seeped into even my decision in my first marriage. Really great guy, just learned as I kind of did a lot more personal development work. I mean, a lot of, support group and counseling and coaching and therapy, all different kinds of work that was not serving me to live that, to play small and to live like that. And so it just showed up everywhere. And it was awesome and also humbling to see, that story. And then since then, this was about 8 years ago, I've just been, I call it like excavating the authentic me and just looking, where else am I living out stories and words that are not mine? And that was part of what got me to write a book about this. Because I know as humans, we hear people say things to us, whether it's a parent or a teacher or a friend or whoever it is. Maybe it's not even, it's about them, or it's not ill meant, but we take it and we make it mean something. And it was so powerful when I was able to release that. So, that's been an ongoing shift and kind of place that I play in every day, just making sure I'm designing how I'm going to live my life based on the words I choose versus what someone else tells me.
Julie, I think your story is striking, and probably a lot of people relate to that because essentially 20 years you carried that with you, and you stated that it impacted so many different areas of your life. In fact, your choice in your first husband was based on some of these false beliefs about yourself.
Absolutely. My biggest struggle and / kind of gift in my life, for me, the way that I handled feelings for a long time around these, feelings of not being good enough and feeling like I, was not like everybody else, was around food. I mean, I just used food to handle that. And, I always joke that sugar, nothing, a little bit moderation for some. For me, it's not a good idea, but it became this drug. It became what soothed me. And so it took quite a bit of time to really learn to be still and to get to my feelings and really get to what was going on, because for a long time I used food to mask it. And so now, not surprisingly, a lot of my clients, a lot of people I work with are around those struggling with emotional eating and body image and dealing with the same shame and guilt and not feeling good enough. And it's been a strange gift, because through those really dark moments, and I mean, there have been some moments that were really, really dark. And it wasn't like, I was very lucky, I had a great family. So it wasn't like I had some horrible childhood, and yet I still had this self-inflicted stuff going on. And that's where I feel like there's a lot of people that probably can relate to that, where you don't have to have anything crazy going on, and you can, compare yourself and not feel great and then struggle like that. And there is a way out. That's what my passion is helping to shift those patterns and redesign how you do life. But
you've used the term life designer. Well, you said designing your life based on your words, but I know that life design is something that you hallmark as a specialty for you, something that you're really passionate about, but it's a unique and interesting term. Could you tell us what you mean by life designer?
Yeah, thanks for asking. I know it's, I fell in love with it so much that I trademarked it, which is I was shocked that it was available. I kind of thought, well, how has no one taken these two words together? But they're powerful to me, because, we all have this one life that we're living, is this authentic, sacred, unique, individual that we each are. And what I saw was that I was living my life for a long time, believing that I did not have the ability to be in the front seat and drive it and create it and design it. And so for me, designing it means you're the one you're creating. You're the one. It's a very empowering word, designer. We use it in different ways, but I love the juxtaposition of designer with your life. So you get to be the one in charge, in control, empowered to really decide literally how you want to design it, just like you would design a house or any project. You would sit down and really look at it and make those conscious, you'd be conscious about it and aware and awake. And so to me, there's something about, if you're designing it, you are awakening to who you really are. And that for me is that lights me up. I mean, I can't stop thinking about it every day, because it's changed my life to see that switch. So I just wanted a term that really kind of umbrella looked at, who you are, designing your whole life, mind, body, spirit. I work with some that are come through the government in that way, and we look at the whole person, and sometimes it's through a private client. But no matter what, I don't care what position, what job, what career, who you are, we bring ourselves wherever we go. And often many of us forget that we have the ability to get conscious, to wake up and really create. We don't have to be the victim of anything, even though that can be, and that's a process. I've been through it and I'm constantly assessing myself to make sure I'm not getting into that place. So I like the empowerment piece about it.
Well, it certainly would be empowering for anybody to basically say, this is what I want my dream life to be, and then to make it happen. Right. But I also suspect that for a lot of people, that might be terrifying because what comes with that is accountability, right?
Absolutely.
So how do you, for somebody who is maybe going through what you've been going through, that they've had these negative thoughts that they might not even have been fully aware of for many, many years, and all of a sudden now somebody who's believed they couldn't do something is being held accountable? How do you broach that?
Yeah, that is such a great question. And here's what I would say is that whenever I'm working with someone, my first intention is to create a space that's loving, that's full of compassion, and really meeting whoever I'm working with wherever they're at. And so that I've worked with many people where that's really scary, and I've been there, so I think it helps. Like I know, sometimes it's starting just small, and it's looking like, what would it look like? I use a lot of appreciative inquiry. What would it look like if things were working out? What would it look like? And then we can even see, sometimes it's like, oh my God, I've never even thought that way, or I don't even believe that's possible. Okay, great. There's a belief going on that, so that's a good place to start. But for some people, it's dipping your toe in the pool. It's, easing into the water versus jumping into the deep end. And, to me, it's about doing this with care, with kindness, with love, with compassion, and honesty. And so, I think what many people don't often have is somebody who is listening to them, both what they're saying and what they're not saying. And that's very powerful when you have, for me, when I have coaches in my life, and having that listening, that it becomes kind of a healing presence in itself. So, I often go slowly with someone who might have that fear, and often it's the fear that's getting in their way and not serving them. And so, I actually love working with clients in that place. I've been there, and it's kind of it's beautiful to watch when you move through that fear to something more empowering. I don't know why I really enjoy that, and I get that it can be really scary if you have not done this work. It can be like, what, big, like, what? How is this going to happen? And that's often the answer is right in there. It's starting to change that belief that yes, of course, we're designed to be able to, if you have that desire to have that in your life, there's a reason for that. And how can you honor that and express yourself in that? Because you wouldn't have it otherwise,
Beautifully said. I love that. And your own journey for you was so powerful that you felt compelled to create a book about it, get a PhD in you, a course in Miraculous Self-Discovery. And I wonder if you could take us through that book, what people will get out of it, and as well as the journey in writing it.
Well, the quick overview about writing it was, what's so funny about this is that I'm obviously comfortable speaking. I love speaking. I'm really verbal. I'm an extroverted thinker. So that, no problem there. I did write in the newspaper, and it's funny. I was always told, I did the announcements, you're great with speaking, your writing can get flowery. I just heard over and over again, your writing's so flowery, Julie, you got to tighten it up. So the irony is, for me to write a book is just, if I can write a book, anyone can write a book. And plus there are great editors out there who I can recommend. But I did hear this small, quiet voice from within for a good year that said, Julie, you've got to write a book. You've got to write what you've experienced. There are people that you could help. And for me, that's a big thing. For me, one of my prayers was, let none of my experiences be in vain. Let me use this to make a difference and be of service. And I got that when I did a lot of work in a support group that I was part of for over 10 years, to be of service, to give back. That's really important to me. And it wasn't until I met a friend who had written a book. She showed me how she got her ideas together on a napkin. It was a mind mapping approach. And I realized I am so right brain, and that made all the difference. And so it took 2 years, and I actually hand wrote it, which I don't recommend. But for my process, I needed to literally write it, and I designed every page. It's nutty. It has bubbles on it, but it worked for my brain. It made me feel like I was writing in my journal. And so, the actual book, what I got was, I used to joke and say that, God, after all this personal development work, I feel like I have a PhD in me. Like, I just feel like I just did a 10-year program in myself. And then I realized, oh my goodness, I should put this together. And there might be others who, I believe as we learn to love and honor ourselves and really master our inner world, like you said, that's what we can give out to the external world. And so as I was starting to see those changes, it occurred to me, really want to help people, anyone that feels like they're not, being and living up to who they really are, and to be able to give that back. I wanted to make that difference. So my book, literally, it just walks you. It's very interactive. It is got a lot of coaching prompts and questions. It also has my story woven in, but it looks at your limited beliefs and your stories and your fears, and then reframes them. There's a lot around, how do you connect with yourself? How do you fall in love with yourself? How do you even do that? Not in a cheesy way, but how do you really do that, where you're going to feel something about yourself that's not, oh, I wish I wasn't this way, but, oh, I'm a sacred, person doing the best I can. So shifting those beliefs, looking at your words, looking at what you're saying, how those make a difference. And then, I do add a whole piece around mindfulness and around the mind body, kind of what you're eating and how you're living your life and how that makes an impact. And there's a lot of focus on purpose and passion, and kind of coming at the end with a, I think what I've heard from people that have done it, and I've worked through it as well, is the idea is to feel like, oh my gosh, I really now have a good sense of who I am, what lights me up, how I want to make an impact in the world, who I want to be and show up as in the world, and how am I going to do that? So that's my goal, is to have that self-discovery and then to apply it so that it's an action, and it's not just knowledge from within, but you can make a difference in the world. That lights me up.
You are so singing my song. And I want to jump back, because you mentioned that in one of the chapters you talk about how you can help people fall in love with themselves.
Yes.
So how do you fall in love with yourself?
Yes. So I have been very inspired by Louise Hay. I was raised by, my mother was a lot like Stuart Smalley. If anyone ever watched Saturday Night Live.
Saturday Night Live, of course.
Yeah, I'm dating myself, but in the 90s. The whole, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and gosh darn it, people love me.
People like me. Yeah.
People like me. My mom actually did that with me, and it was horrifying then, but actually something about it stuck with me. And so I started listening and reading. Louise Hay is one of my big influencers, and she did a lot about mirror work. And so in chapter 2, I kind of redefined it, because I know for some people, it's a very challenging exercise to literally connect with yourself in the mirror. Most, especially women, we look in the mirror and it's no, that's not what, it's rare. I've found women that don't do that, and I've worked very hard on myself so that it's a loving reflection back. But I do start with the mirror, and I actually have a way of doing it where it's not just saying affirmations, it's really looking into your eyes and connecting. And for many people, and a lot of my clients, that was very challenging. And so we started with, what can you appreciate right now? What can you, maybe it's your eyes, or noticing, your mouth that you've been breathing since you were born through, whether taking bites of food with, or, your hair or something, or inner qualities, and just acknowledging that, because it's very powerful. We look at the mirror all the time, and there's usually a lot of negative self-talk. So one of the places I like to start is there. It's very tangible. There are other activities that I have and ways to do it, but that stood out to me. And I think, I even have, there's an activity where you can make your own, I call it your self-love-in mirror, and you can just create a mirror, like buy one and write things on it and look up to it and practice in your, in privacy. So, and there's a lot of research around, as you speak to yourself in new ways and make that connection, it changes your physiological chemistry. It changes, your body can have internal healing. There's so much good stuff that goes with this that I wanted to teach it in a way that wherever you are, even if you're the person that I had a client, I mean, she literally was like, Julie, I can't do this. It makes me want to cry. I don't like looking in the mirror, not even for a second. And finally, she's like, you know what? I actually like my eyes. I said, awesome. I want you to connect with your eyes. And we're starting there. And it took her 3 months. And then we moved slowly. And it's been brilliant. She has shifted her view and literal vision and connection of herself with herself. And what's happened is she's, yes, released negative thoughts, released weight, because it's all tied in together, So that's a great place to start. And I write a lot about it. And I share, I was certainly influenced by Louise Hay, who has done a lot of work on mirror work. But I think it's a good place to start. It's one of the places I had my first kind of breakthrough healing, and I practice it every single day, all the time. Anytime I look in the mirror, I send a kiss to myself, or I say something nice, or I just something, so that my brain pattern is shifted around that. And hopefully, my kids will have a mom that's like Stuart Smalley also. I just try to tailor it a little bit more, so I'm not too much like that. But, hey, I guess if that's the worst, there's other worst, but, it's all good.
This is very true. And I also like the fact that, you're using that, the falling in love with yourself as a foundation, and then moving on to mindfulness, discovering one's passion, etc. But I'm curious about the food part that ties it all together. Talk to us a little bit about that aspect of your book.
Yeah. So, and it's funny, I'm actually, there's a couple chapters towards the end, 9, 10, 11. One is called Hungry for More, which I'm actually creating my first online course about, because I realized, and when I wrote about it, it's like the beginning of it, but being somebody who struggled, and it doesn't, some days I still have that feeling of, my God, and sometimes I act on it, usually not, but wanting something, feeling like food, is a comfort, and we all eat. Most of us eat every day, 3 meals at least. And so I kind of look at it from different angles. I look at, notice how you feel when you eat certain things. Most of us go through life on autopilot. How do you feel when you eat something packaged or greasy versus how do you feel when you eat, a spinach salad? I'm guessing you're going to feel different before, during, and after, and start noticing, because I really believe our bodies are so wise. We're so wise, and that it takes practice. But as I started to pay attention, I was someone who was eating, I'm talking like bags and bags of M&Ms in the closet by myself, binging. I mean, I was not, it was not pretty. And it was certainly, we're not talking like, oh, that's lovely, I just had a few extra cookies. No, I would eat a whole pack of 50 Oreos. That was where I was. And so one of the things I learned was, that was a way of dealing with emotions. So, first starting with your body, what are you noticing? What are you intuiting when you eat? And then start listening. And then what are you feeling? How do you deal with your feelings? We have an emotional scale that ranges. Anything for me that starts to get into anger, resentment, anxiety, comparison, sadness. Like, I know that's kind of okay, Julie, calm. Like, I need to get quiet, because my instinct used to be food. It just numbed me out. So I do a whole piece on teaching yourself how to live with different emotions. Many of us, a lot of women especially, and men, weren't taught how to process emotions and digest them, literally, without using food or alcohol or something else to deal. So there's an assessment, there's a lot around kind of noticing that piece. And then I then talk about, actually what happens to your body when you do eat certain foods, the impact of those foods. I learned going through a very stressful experience of a divorce, which, I don't recommend, but was the right choice. My thyroid stopped working, and I, as a result, studied a lot. I have Hashimoto's, which is an autoimmune condition. So I've learned a lot about inflammatory foods. And so there's a whole piece on how to take out inflammation and how to love and heal your body. And then I do talk about weight, because I do believe while weight, yes, is physical, and eating well and exercising, yes, is part of the equation. I've seen it with myself, having gained and lost 40 pounds 4 times. Having been the same weight for about 7 years, what I saw was that when I, allowed myself to feel my feelings and release kind of those, i.e. crying and expressing and journaling and doing all kinds of things using, I'm a big Miracle Morning fan, and using that process and meditating, I was able to release so much emotion, and my body, it was amazing. I noticed that I just naturally released anything, the weight that I didn't need. And so I don't talk about weight loss. I talk about releasing what doesn't serve you, releasing what you don't need. That's how I like to talk about it. So there's a huge amount on that. And then there is an assessment in the back that I created around body intuition and wisdom and foods. And so it's I was going to say it's an obsession, but that sounds negative. It's a passion of mine because I feel like if someone like me could be where I used to be with, literally buying bags of M&Ms and Oreos and stuffing them in the car so no one could see me, and eating frozen cookies at my former in-laws' house during, dinners in the bathroom, to, listening to my body and eating 3 beautiful meals a day. It's like, if I can get to that place, holy moly, anyone can. And I want to help people do that.
That is really awesome. And I might add that you give everybody a little diploma on page 157. So
yes.
very, very cool. But in all seriousness, no, I think what you're doing, and particularly around the food, is absolutely wonderful. And it is not only absolutely wonderful, that it is needed. It is needed in society, because I think there's a lot out there in terms of eating disorders, certainly in the clinical research, and that's been well studied and well documented. But the way that it sounds like you're tying in food with some of these other issues and doing it in a way that's accessible for people, is really awesome. So kudos to you, Julie, for sure, for that. I wanted to ask you a little bit more about Hungry for More, because I know that you recently filmed something for that. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so this is a good story, and it's a little humbling. And also, what I like about it is that I think the underlying message is that you should always, go for it. And even if, so I'll share what I mean. I have been part of a phenomenal film festival out of Sedona. It's called Illuminate, and they bring all kinds of films on living consciously. And so I decided, I was in a program where we were doing community projects, and I said, you know what, I'm going to do a short film on my experience with overeating and kind of how I've moved through that and how I have handled that and how I live today. And so a guy that I knew was a filmmaker, and so I'd had some on-camera background before, and I figured, this is just going to be raw, like no notes, no nothing. I'm just going to be sitting and sharing. And so we did a short film, and I decided I was going to submit it to this film festival, not realizing when I submitted it, it was up against Tony Robbins' I Am Not Your Guru film. That was like what the realm of films coming in were.
Wow.
And I was so awesome because I ended up going both the last couple of years. It's an awesome festival, and I highly recommend it. And I realized when I was there, when it was, Michael Beckwith's film, and with Joan Rivers and Jenny McCarthy, and then Tony Robbins' film. And I said, you know what? I totally get why my film wasn't chosen. That makes complete sense. And it was funny, the woman who chose, she's like, actually, it was really well done. You need more, you need more interview, whatever, to make it a little more complete. And I thought, okay, but I'm so glad I did it, because what I've done is I've been showing it all over the Maryland, Baltimore, DC area, and starting conversations. I've probably showed it to over 300 people now. We've done about 4 different film screenings, and I'm actually going to it inspired me to start my first online course around this area. It's going to be called Hungry for More, and it's really teaching using the film, and then I'm calling it the 6 H's of hunger, which is not cellular hunger, but all the different types of hunger. I really want to dive into this area. And so doing that film, even though it wasn't selected, I'm so grateful I did it anyhow. And it's like, if I had known who I was up against, I wouldn't have submitted it, but I'm so glad I did, because it got me in action. And I've used it to really get that conversation started. And it looks like might be used in some of the all-girls schools to talk about eating issues and eating disorders with girls and young women. So I'm just excited to see how it can be used to make a difference, and then, to create this course that will go with it.
That's really wonderful. And again, it illustrates the point, that you might have been so intimidated by who you were going up against, you might not have even done it. And now that you have, who knows where that's going to go and how many people you're going to help through it. Amazing.
Exactly. Thank you.
So when is do we have a date for this course when people are going to be able to have access to this?
Yeah, so I'm looking to launch it in the very beginning of September. My goal was and is, and I'm actually almost there. I have a little bit more to go, but I'm working with a woman who has a whole wellness academy and has done this before, and so we're working together. I want to make sure that it's really has a lot of different tools and resources, and also it's all my content, but that it's engaging and then it makes a difference. And so she's helping me, and it should be ready by the first week of September, if not the end of August. But I'll be rolling it out as kids go back to school. Then this is something for adults or young women to engage in, and so I'm looking to roll it out in the beginning of September.
Perfect. So this will probably air after that's launched. So we will definitely post a link to that inside of so people can find that. Very good. Well, I think we're at time here. I have loved having you on, and as you know, I wrap up every episode with a single question that I ask all my guests, and that is, what is the biggest helping, the single most important piece of information you'd like somebody to walk away with after hearing you today?
Oh, I just got chills. Okay. This is what's coming up for me, is that whoever you are, I know because you are a human being like myself, that we're all wired to have everything we need to know, all of the intuition and wisdom and knowing that we need to know from within, and that each person who has tuned in is a sacred, wise, incredibly powerful being who has things to do on this planet. And I would just say, the best thing in the world you can do is to honor, cherish, love yourself so that you can give that out to the world, and then go be your best self. Go design it, be it, and really add to the well-being of this planet. That would be what I would add.
That is awesome. I love that. Well, this was incredible, Julie. Again, I know we're short on time here. Where can people find you?
So the easiest way to find me is my website, and that's my name, which is juliereisler.com.
And that is Julie, REISLER.com, all one word, right?
Yes, like the store, REI. I learned that talking to somebody.
Oh, funny. Awesome.
I was like, REI. Yeah, and the Hungry for More is on there, and I can get you that info. But yeah, I would love to hear from whoever is touched by this. I love helping anyone who wants to take on their life and be fully self-expressed and take their life to the next level. That's my passion. So
fantastic. Now, Julie, thank you again. And also, as stated, we're going to have a link to Hungry for More on the Daily Helping app and in our show notes, as well as a link where you can pick up Julie's book, A PhD in You. And that's all the time we have for today. Julie, thank you so much for coming on. And for each and every one of you who tuned into this episode, thank you for listening. If you like what you heard, go subscribe to the show on iTunes and leave us a 5-star review. This is what helps others find the podcast. But most importantly, go out there and do something nice for somebody else today, even if you don't know who they are, and post it in your social feeds using the hashtag #MyDailyHelping, because the happiest people are those that help others.